Greetings and welcome back to my channel. I apologize for not having been making these videos on a regular basis. I was doing the New England tour and then I came back and I've been taking care of business here at home, trying to do adult things and getting my life back together, right? But neither here nor there. I do intend to keep doing these weekly, and this week's video is a little bit of a much more serious video. As many of you know, the GOP is trying to pass their Trump care again and repeal the Affordable Care Act, except they're going to make it even worse. What they're doing this time is getting rid of the pre-existing conditions clause and attacking women's maternity rights as well as additional health care against them. They are also effectively raising the age of Medicare and Social Security, which not only negatively impacts regular people, but the elderly especially. And if they repeal the Affordable Care Act and make the pre-existing conditions a thing again, 24 million people at least lose their health care. Mind you, we still don't even have full coverage. We don't even have half coverage of the country. The perspective there being, we are already not fully covered with the medical and insurance processes that we have, and yet they're trying to make it even worse and more difficult. So on that note, I do want to talk about the need and why I support universal health care. It's necessary. We're the only country who doesn't have it, and we are the only developed nation in the world who doesn't have it, and we have the worst healthcare system in the world in comparison because of it. And I just want to read a little story from a friend of mine who is a son of veterans, a big family of military, and just be ready for this one. Hey Sam, I haven't sent you anything yet, and now I'm sending you, as hopefully a future congressman, the reason why I've been completely preoccupied and kind of effed up mentally and emotionally. Something you should know and learn about and make an issue of in your campaign, in my opinion. Do you know anything yet about the toxic waste, contaminated water on Camp Lejeune, a Marine Corps base? Serious stuff, vinyl chloride, benzene, etc. It began in 1953. The DoD and Navy Department denied, deflected, and covered up, refused to acknowledge it for 30 years. The EPA declared the base a Superfund site in the 1980s. People were using tap water for 30 years with, at times, 50 times the level of toxins deemed safe. They continued to deny that there were risks until about 5 years ago when it became clear that people who had been stationed there were dropping like flies from rare and effed up cancers. The VA just in March 2017 began reviewing disability claims for illnesses related to these toxins. And the list of qualifying cancers is basically an FU, unless you are terminal, we won't approve your claim. The courts have dismissed a ton of cases brought by families and civilians who lived and worked there because North Carolina has a 10-year statute of repose. Never mind that the cancers didn't show up until way past that deadline. As you can see, we're already getting into some of the nitty-gritty of why our healthcare system in the country is extremely outdated and messed up. The Navy Department was ordered by Congress to contact people and warn them in 2009 and again in 2011. I can personally assure you that they did not. I learned about all of this about 3 weeks ago. My brother called me. He has tumors in his liver and non-alcohol related cirrhosis. It has been killing him, literally, for a couple of years already. And no one had an explanation for cirrhosis in a man who doesn't drink much. He told me he now had an answer, and he has had just learned about Lejeune. Our dad, a decorated Korean War veteran, Purple Heart recipient via mortar shell, several hundred shrapnel wounds, who served for 24 years and retired as a master gunnery sergeant, died in 1987, 53 years old. I just turned 51. For multiple aggressive cancers, At the time, the doctors thought it was odd that such serious cancers appeared in several organs simultaneously. On a Korean War veteran, I might add. Purple Heart recipient. A true hero of our United States. Now we have an answer. My mom and dad lived on Lugene for several years. Mom, by the way, has an autoimmune dysfunction that has caused her endless problems. She has had over 24 surgeries over the years just to excise infections she could not fight off. My brother was born on Lugene, and in a perfect illustration of just how effed up this problem was and how long it was allowed to persist, when he was 19, in 1973, he followed in Dad's footsteps and joined the Marines. He did amphibious assault training on Lugene. My brother drank and was bathed in toxic sludge as a newborn and infant, then was exposed again as a Marine 19 years later. 19 motherfucking years later, his words. Now he's in constant pain and is dying. The VA doesn't want to give him disability because he has tumors and not cancer. His daughter told him to get a lawyer, so of course he called me. I have spent the last 3 weeks compartmentalizing the constant desire to either burst into tears or go kill someone, while I poured through my brother's medical records and prognosis reports. Researched federal and North Carolina tort and wrongful death statutes, Supreme and appellate precedents, talked to researchers at the CDC and NIH, with aides to Senators Wyden and Merkley, filed power of attorney papers, was designated to make medical decisions should he become incapacitated, and was named executor of his estate, etc., etc. I have become the representative and legal agent for my dying big brother, United States Marine. I have been the same for my mother for many years now. They have also had me appointed legal agent for my dad's estate. I am preparing a bundle of lawsuits which I will file and argue pro se, and they will likely all fail. I don't give a fuck. I just want my family's story to be documented, and I want my mom and dad and brother to be remembered for their service, and I want their betrayal documented. That is my life right now. I am flying to Kansas City in 2 weeks to visit. I have to see my brother. The abstract records are freaking me out. I need to see the man, not the MRIs. I'm going to keep you posted on all of this, whether you like it or not, until and unless you should decide to quit your political aspirations. No way in hell, brother. Which would be a damn shame and a sin. Your district seat is winnable by a man like you. I looked up the incumbent and researched the history and current demographics. You, not just any damn, you could win that seat with the right outreach, and you should. This country needs you and people like you in government. Period. Thank you. Camp Lugene is an extremely effed up case of how our government reps are screwing over those who serve while using military bullshit to further their own careers. And no one knows about it. Not even those of us who, by law, should have been told years ago. I was born on Camp Pendleton. I was lucky, I suppose. But my father should have been included in their mortality studies. He was not. Take care, my brother. I will stay in touch, and my offers to help you stand, in total, regardless of other obligations. Semper Fidelis. That still means something to us. Wish me luck as I joust with windmills. Don Quixote. I am out of my effing mind. Glad to have you aboard. That story is everything that is wrong with our medical care, with our medical process, with the way the United States treats its veterans, with the way our elected officials treat the American people in our country. They are trying to kill us, if not deliberately or on purpose. They are doing it literally by denying us care, by not informing us or our loved ones of the risks that they're taking, and then not even following through with the care in the first place. This cannot be allowed to continue. And the fact of the matter is, the GOP is trying to make it even worse and harder for people like you and me to get health care, to make it even harder for the poor and the disenfranchised to get the care that they deserve and that they need. If I read one more article about a father choosing to die rather than go through cancer treatment because he doesn't want to burden his family with debt after his death, I'm going to lose my mind. Universal health care may be a trigger word for some people in rural communities or in moderate circles. So I don't care what I have to do to explain it to you. Universal health care, single payer, Medicare for all, changing the way health insurance works, making health insurance less of a pervasive entity in our lives. I don't give a damn what I have to do to get through your skulls that this cannot be allowed to continue. That this Korean War veteran died without care and without knowing of why he went through these cancers. Because our government lied to him and covered it up and then didn't tell them. And that our politicians continue to follow through with those antics. And that they continue to run on their campaigns of saying that universal health care is not a right. And then they want to add to it education. What are they trying to do? Take us back into the 13th century to the Dark Ages, where feudal lords ruled the lands and peasants died through the plague and through pestilence? I think not. I will not allow it. I refuse to allow it to continue. And when I run for Congress in 2018, that will be one of my sticking points. That Steve Chabot, who is my current congressman in this district, a Republican, whose Wikipedia reads like a caricature of every single issue on the wrong side of history, I will crush him. I will fight him tooth and nail, and I will deny him the ability to continue to undermine and hurt my countrymen. I swore an oath. Semper Fidelis may not be my phrase, but it certainly means something to me, as well as the oath of enlistment that I swore, that my brothers and sisters in arms swore, to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States from all enemies, both foreign and especially domestic. If we have saboteurs in our own nation and in positions of power, how are we ever going to maintain our sovereignty, our liberty, and our freedom of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? We can't. They will not let us. And we shouldn't let them deny us. We need to organize. We need to fight back. We need to run for office and support our candidates. If the political parties won't do it, then we need to create our own support structures. If our political parties can't do it, then we need to fill the gaps. Whatever it takes, we must fight. We must win. We cannot allow this to continue. War is upon us, but it isn't a civil war against the North and the South. It isn't a war against the races. It isn't a war against the religious. It is a war against the haves and the have-nots. And we outnumber them 1,000,000 to 1. We are the many. We are the 99%. We are the reason why our businesses operate, why we have roads, why we have freaking teachers, and why we have doctors, and why we have nurses, and why we have food, and why we have everything that we enjoy and that we need. We are the reason why this country operates. And it is time that we stand up united in one solid voice. Say, we will not stand for these atrocities any longer. Healthcare is a right. Education is a right. Liberty is a right. And we will exercise those rights at the ballot. We will exercise that right in elections with grassroots funding, with grassroots campaigning, with organizing, by volunteering for the men and women who will fight for us. Paul Ryan, your healthcare, your cruelty, and your evil will not be tolerated by the men and women of these United States. And I will come after you personally when I win this election in 2018. I will face you down on the congressional floor, and I will crush you in your rhetoric. I will speak on behalf of the people if nobody else will. That is my promise to you. And to the American people who might be watching this, please know that you have a person in your corner that will fight tooth and nail, that will make personal sacrifice to defend you in your right to health care and education.